Hi. Today we're going to be talking about section 6.5, solving two-step equations. Before we move to two-step equations, let's just quickly talk about one-step equations and what you did to solve them. You are first looking to isolate the variable, which will be the same for solving two-step equations. And you also had to keep the equation balanced. So those were our two goals for for one-step equations. We will have the same goals for two-step equations, and really any sort of solving equations problem will have those same goals. We also, in order to solve for the variable and get the variable by itself, used inverse operations. Addition and subtraction are inverses. Multiplication and division are inverses. So that is also going to be important as we move forward. So let's talk about how we would simplify this expression. And yes, this is an expression. It does not have an equal sign. Hopefully, the first thing that comes to your mind is that we would use order of operations. Which you might have thought of as PEMDAS. So let's do that. First, we're going to start inside of the parentheses, and I see subtraction and exponents. So we're going to do the exponents first there. Four squared gives me 16. Then I am going to do the rest of the parentheses, the subtraction that's inside of it. And 91 minus 16 is 75. Then we move on to multiplication or division from left to right. We're going to start with our multiplication. $75 times 6 is 450. And then division. $450 divided by 2 is 225. That gives me a final answer of 227. So that is if we are simplifying an expression, making it as simple as possible, figuring out what it is equal to. But what if we have an equation like this? We're actually going to do the opposite of what we did here, where we were simplifying. In this case, we're going to try to undo the operations that we have, do the reverse of what we were doing before to get x by itself. So we are going to use reverse order of operations. And when we reverse the word PEMDAS, we end up with SADMEP. Just to remember that, some students like to draw a little face or a little doodle of SADMEP. So this is my SADMEP. Just for you to remember. So when we're solving for a variable, we use SADMEP. PEMDAS is used for simplifying. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. We're going to follow really the same steps that we had before to start, where we draw our line and we highlight our variable. Then we look at the operations that are being done to the variable. I read this as 4 times x, which is multiplication, plus 7, which is addition. According to SADMEP, we have to start with subtraction or addition, which are inverses of each other. I see addition of 7. I am going to subtract 7, use its inverse. And we keep our equation balanced. Now, plus 7 minus 7 cancels out, and now I'm left with 4x's equals 24. That is slightly different than what you had before. When you canceled out a piece of the equation, we were just left with the variable. Now, because we have multiple steps in solving our equation, we might be left with something else. This right here is a one-step equation. We only have to do one thing to get x by itself. We have to divide by 4. 4 divided by 4 cancels. That leaves me with x equals 24 divided by 4 is 6. Let's check our answers to make sure we feel comfortable with that. If we were to plug 6 back in where x is in the original equation, is it true that 4 times 6, which is 24, plus 7, which is 31, is equal to 31? Yes, that's true. We like that answer. Okay, so now let's go over a couple more examples. I'm going to draw my line. Oh, you know what? This is the same exact example as what we just had there, so we don't actually have to do this. We will write reference above. That one's the same thing. All right, but we can do this one. This one is different. So we draw our line and we highlight our variable. And if it helps you, you can write SADMAP because we see that we are simplifying. I'm sorry, not SAD. We are solving. That was my mistake. We are solving this equation. So we use SADMAP. Solving is for SADMAP. SADMAP is for solving. So we know that we are currently dividing by 6 on this side of the equation and subtracting by 1/3. Well, we have to start with subtraction or addition. So I'm going to get rid of the minus 1/3 by adding 1/3. And I do that to both sides. Negative or minus 1/3 plus 1/3 cancels. And I'm not just left with x, I'm left with x divided by 6. Now we have to solve this. 5/3 plus 1/3, we're very lucky that our denominators are the same. That becomes 6/3, which is 2. Okay, so now we have a one-step equation. We move on to multiplication or division. This is division. We want to undo that so we can multiply by 6 and multiply by 6. These cancel, and I'm left with x equals 12. Again, it's a good idea to check over your work. Let's plug this back in. 12 divided by 6 is 2. 2 is written as 6/3. So 6/3 minus 1/3 gives me 5/3. So we are happy with that answer. Last example. Desiree made 100 cookies this week. She baked 4 more than 3 times the total she made last week. Write and solve an equation to show how many cookies she baked last week. So I've taught you all that the first thing that you should do is write what your variable is going to be and what it represents. So I like to use x, and my variable x is representing cookies baked last week. That's my unknown in this problem. Then I build around it. What do I know about the cookies baked last week? Well, I know she baked 4 more than 3 times the total she made last week. 3 times the total. 4 more than 3 times the total. And that's going to equal the amount she made this week, which is 100. So let's practice our two-step equations. We draw our line. We highlight. We know we have to take care of subtraction or addition first. I see multiplication and addition, so I am going to use subtraction to undo the addition. Those cancel. Plus 4 minus 4 leaves me with 3x equals 96. one-step equation, 3 times x. To undo that, we're going to divide by 3. Keep the equation balanced. And that leaves me with x equals 32 cookies. Let's check to make sure this makes sense. 32 times 3, 3 times the total. 32 times 3 is 96, plus 4 is 91. We're happy with that answer. And that is how you solve two-step equations.